Hello everyone, Dr. Timothy Elizondo here for episode number 2 of the video series Tim tries to write his philosophy outline in 15 minutes a day or less. So let me hit my timer here for 14 minutes and 30 seconds. And yeah, so really, all right, I'm cheating a little bit. It's not like I'm just working on the philosophy class when the camera's on. So since our last episode, what I did was I went through just all the readings for this particular week. And went through all the readings and I highlighted everything that I thought was like, oh, that looks relevant, that looks relevant, that looks relevant. Anything that kind of spoke to me as it relates to this particular philosophy prompt that I am challenged with. Yeah, that's what I did. And then I extracted those out. And I put them into a Microsoft Word document and started moving things around and creating what I called card cutting. All right, so that's going to be kind of the theme of this particular episode. So before I talk about what card cutting is, I guess I'd like to share with you a little bit about myself. Is I'm a huge fan of games. You can't really see here, but this entire shelf has all these different games on it, rather Dungeons and Dragons, I got King of Tokyo, Sentinels of the Multiverse, X-Wing, Mage Wars, Seventh Continent, Gloomhaven, right? And one game that particularly just captured me was competitive debate, particularly when I started finding it in high school. And one thing I really liked about competitive debate, it was very philosophical. We were always debating, these philosophical ideas that would come back and forth. For example, one was if scientific research should be limited by ethical constraints, right? And I really enjoyed the ability to just go up in front of people and, have this game where I could articulate and just kind of start working with my voice. I think this. And I didn't do very well. I was very consistent with the big L's. And I couldn't figure out why. Because I thought I was saying great things. I thought I was yeah, I'm just speaking the truth. And I didn't realize until a coach came up to me and said, you know what, Tim, your claims are great, but you can't always just debate and say whatever you want. I said, but it's philosophy. He said, yes, it is philosophy, but you have to be rooted in the evidence. And yeah, that kind of kept me baffled for a little bit until I found a game called Magic the Gathering. I've left that game, now I play Hearthstone. But these collectible card games, such as Magic the Gathering, let's just take that one for example, is a game in which you're a wizard and I'm a wizard and we play each other, and we kind of create this battlefield as we play. And if you want to throw a fireball, you gotta have a fireball card. You actually have to have a card that says fireball on it. If you want to play a goblin, you actually have to have a goblin card. Right? So if we're playing and I want to have a fireball, if I don't have a fireball card, I can't use a fireball. And that's suddenly, once I kind of found that game and brought it into debate, I started to understand oh, I can only make arguments in the game if I have a card that allows me to make that argument. And hence, we turn to card cutting. So what card cutting is, let me put myself off to the side here, here's my Microsoft Word document where what I did was I found all the quotes I like and I just copied them to a Microsoft Word document. And I made a point to make sure that I cited at the very end of whatever quotation I was pulling out where I got it from, right? So who said it, and then additionally what page number it's coming from, right? And I've got that all the way down. I divided this page by, so this is a different, nope, same author, right? Page 13, page 14, 23, 28, 28, right? And now I got a different author. So Morpheus tells Neo, this is Matrix book. Okay. All right. So that's the first step. The first step is actually just reading the material and pulling out the things that you think are going to be relevant. Right. And relevant to what? Well, relevant ultimately to this document, right, that we're going to have to create an outline where I have a thesis, first main idea, my second main idea, and my third main idea. And if you've had an opportunity to look at or have practice outlining, you'll also know that this is going to have subpoints, right? So this is probably going to be some sort of claim that I'm making here, right, to support this main idea. Here's going to be another claim. right? Here's going to be another claim. And ultimately, I don't know why these are doing that. I don't know. Your claim too. And then also underneath the claim, we could also say that there's going to need to be evidence. Right? So ultimately, this is going to be a structure of, hey, my paper's about this thesis. And my thesis can be divided, or to support my thesis, I'm going to divide this paper into 3 big parts. And each part is going to have some sentences in them that are going to have evidence to support those sentences. All right, so that's ultimately what we're building for. And I'm going to use, and when I was kind of reading these things, I looked at the prompt and I kind of already determined that I want to make the argument that philosophy is important. I think just, we could entertain both sides, but I think it's easier to make the argument from the course readings that not having philosophy on a college campus is bad, right? I say this because I looked at the readings and I couldn't find a lot that indicated that, you know, philosophy shouldn't be studied. So I'm going with that was kind of my sense. All right, so then what did I do? All right, so I've got all this stuff. And the next step is going to be to read each section. All right, let's just take like this first one. Bertrand Russell argues that there is a great value doing philosophy. Okay. And then I want to like actually make a sentence here above it that captures what that evidence allows me to argue. Like, what's the sentence that is, in a sense, it's called a tag when we cut cards. But I think here, so right here we have this piece of evidence that says that Bertrand Russell argues that there's a great value in doing philosophy precisely because it frustrates our desire for quick, easy answers. Denying us easy answers to questions undermining our it liberates us. All right, that's pretty key. So Bertrand Russell, 2 L's, 2 E's, argues that philosophy liberates us from traditional thinking, leads to new possibilities, and undermines prejudice. Yeah. I mean, we could say it's not Bertrand Russell arguing that. We could say that it's Ward's interpretation of Bertrand Russell, but all right. So then what I do is I take, I'm going to blow this all up so that just in case you're like, Tim, I can't read this. All right, I'm going to blow that up. I don't know, something like 18. Boom. All right, so right here, up on top, this is what I just added to this piece of evidence right here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make that stand out. Bam. And if we are in debate, we actually might do something like this. All right. So now that's called, what I just did is called blocking a card. Because in debate, like really old school debate, we used to just carry around all these giant like tubs and like, you know, just bins of folders that had all these cards on them. So if we were making a particular, I don't know, if we were in a debate and I was like, okay, like, you know, they just said, I don't know, philosophy's terrible. We're like, okay, no, let's go through our philosophy good file. Hey, and we could just pull it out. I can hand it to my partner who's up there at the podium. And now all of a sudden he's just going to go, no, philosophy is actually awesome. In fact, Bertrand Russell makes the argument that philosophy opens minds, that it leads to new possibilities and actually undermines prejudice within a society. It's true, in fact, right? And then the evidence is right underneath them. All right, so then we do that to each of the evidence blocks that we have, right? So I pulled out, what is it, like maybe 20 different pieces of evidence. So now I'm going to block and do what I just did to every single piece of evidence, which I did here. All right, so not only did I tag every single piece of evidence, then what I decided to do was I decided to start grouping them. So if it looked like it was a piece of evidence that my tag was indicating that philosophy is awesome, I put it in one group. And then if it was another tag that said, philosophy, if you don't study philosophy, it's really bad. I was like, okay, that seems to me what happens if you don't study philosophy. So that's another group. And then there was a third group that seemed to imply like what philosophy leads to. And that final product is here. So let me blow all this up too, so you can see it. Probably should have done this sooner, but what are you gonna do? All right. Oh, hold it. Will this work? I don't. Yes, I don't know how to use Microsoft. Okay. Bam. Okay, so hopefully you can now see it. All right, and this is more of a bigger title. That's like that the whole section. Philosophy is studied. This section, that doesn't make sense. So that would be what happens when philosophy is studied. All right, so now I've got these different cards. I go, well, first of all, it frees us from conventional thinking. It's anti-prejudice, and leads to new possibilities. Sure. All right, Russell says philosophy is what's going to liberate us. Philosophy leads to progress, and philosophy leads to knowledge. Then I've got this another section here that says, what does philosophy do? Well, its propositions are linked to reality. Arguments in philosophy is linked to reasoning. Philosophy develops critical thinking. Philosophy tries to link things to the way they are. So in other words, it's going to let us know what's real. And it's going to lead to humility, which Socrates argues is really good. All right, down here, I've got stuff that's like, what happens when you don't study philosophy? Well, we live in a security blanket. We get dehumanized, according to Peirce. Russell's going to say that we're prone to propaganda, prejudice, and cultural customs. And I kind of pulled something else out about moral relativism, but I think I kind of want to make that argument too, that, you know, we just kind of become like untethered to any kind of ethical foundation. Then I have this other section here of stuff I pulled that seemed to be like a basket, and it was from the Matrix book. The SOE we were reading, that one was we live in an illusion, we're being tricked, and that our senses trick us. And so here I think I want to kind of make the argument that we're like susceptible to like material conditions, I think. And then I've got stuff about Socrates I didn't really know what to do with. And then I've got some matrix stuff here, like knowing thyself is key in the philosophy of the matrix. We see similar themes. And matrix is Plato's cave. All right. And even though I may not be using those matrix cards in this particular prompt, one of the advantages of this particular system is that I now have matrix cards, right? So I have to make another prompt. So there are particular cards that I can use that I'm developing here that I can always put into the matrix outline. In addition, they're all saved now in both Microsoft Cloud and in my own kind of like computer email system. As a result, from now on moving forward, if I ever want to work on a sabbatical project, if I'm ever taking another philosophy class, if I am ever building upon this exam with another exam in the future, I now have all of that evidence organized and contained within my files, right? So I'm not, and really it's going to be kind of this process of moving cards around, not so much doing original writing or really even original thinking, but instead just piecing it out. All right, so that's all the time we have. So tomorrow I'm going to start moving stuff around. I hope everything is well. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you later. All right, bye guys.